What if I told you that a simple oil, quietly waiting in your kitchen, could awaken the one part of your body you thought had already said goodbye? No pills, no pressure, just touch, breath, and the quiet return of something deeply yours. And if you've ever felt that ache of distance between who you are and who you used to be, this story might stir something inside you. I'm Dr. Max Cole. I'm a board-certified urologist, and for the past 30 years, I've had the privilege of sitting with thousands of men in their 50s, 60s, even well into their 80s, who've come to me not just for medicine, but for something deeper. They came with quiet questions, the kind they rarely voice out loud. Is it normal that I don't feel like a man anymore? Is this the end of intimacy? Does masturbation after 60 mean something's wrong with me? What I've learned over these decades is simple but powerful. The male body doesn't stop wanting to feel alive. It just stops receiving the signals we used to send it. And aging isn't the enemy. Disconnection is. That's why I don't just treat conditions like erectile dysfunction, urinary incontinence, or low testosterone with pills. I help men restore their relationship with their own bodies. Because healing isn't always found in a prescription. Sometimes it's found in the way we breathe, the way we touch, the way we slow down long enough to care. This video is for the elderly man who still longs to feel, for the senior who quietly wonders if he still matters, for the one holding questions about semen retention, power, about sexual education, but never knowing who to ask. So if any part of this feels familiar, if your curiosity is still alive, then stay with me. We're going to walk through something practical, gentle, and powerful, and I'll be with you every step of the way. If you appreciate heartfelt, honest health tips for senior men, take a quiet moment. Now tap the like button, subscribe to Life Over 50 Plus, and let's begin this journey together. 1. Why most men over 60 struggle down there. Most men over 60 believe it's just aging. That's the quiet story they've been handed. You're getting older, of course things won't work the same, so they accept the fading erections, the lack of sensitivity, the way they no longer feel connected to that part of their body or to themselves. But that's the mistake when I see again and again in my clinic. Men assume that what's happening is inevitable, that there's nothing left to do but lower expectations. They stop reaching for intimacy. They stop believing in restoration. They even stop asking questions about sexual health, about masturbation, about what it means to still feel like a man after 60. And yet the real truth, your body hasn't given up. It's just been waiting. Biologically, what changes after 60 isn't desire, it's delivery. The small arteries and capillaries in your pelvic region, the ones responsible for delivering rich oxygenated blood to your penis, and surrounding tissues begin to stiffen. They lose elasticity like old garden hoses left too long in the sun. They no longer expand with ease during moments of arousal, which means less blood flow, less sensation, and fewer spontaneous erections. At the same time, your nervous system slows. Nerve endings become dulled, and the brain begins to disconnect from the body's cues down there. That region, the one you've known your whole life, starts to feel like it belongs to someone else. Or worse, like it doesn't belong to anyone anymore. But here's the good news, and it matters more than any prescription. That disconnection isn't permanent. It can be reversed, not with pills or surgeries, but with consistent attention, gentle stimulation, and the reawakening of the relationship between your mind and your body. That's why I encourage my patients to start small. Before we talk about testosterone levels or advanced urology treatments, we start with something humble and powerful: blood flow. Because without circulation, nothing else matters. And when circulation returns, so does sensation, so does confidence, so does the man you still are. Let me tell you about Roy. He's 67, retired teacher. Quiet guy, never dramatic. He came in one afternoon and told me, "Doc, I don't feel broken, but I feel distant, like my body's still showing up every day. But a part of me hasn't woken up in years." That line stayed with me because it wasn't about performance, it was about presence. I asked him a few simple questions. When was the last time he felt warmth in that region? When did he last feel pleasure without pressure? He just smiled sadly and said, "Maybe before my first grandkid was born." We didn't start with pills. We started with attention. Daily gentle stimulation, light exercise, a little massage oil, and 5 minutes of care. No rush, no goal, just connection. And 2 weeks later, he came back and said something. "I'll never forget I didn't get younger, doc. I just stopped feeling invisible." That's the power of returning to your body. That's the wisdom most men never get told. Not in their youth, not in their 40s, not even in their senior years. But it's never too late to remember. Because the truth is, feeling like a man again doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in the bloodstream, in the nervous system, in a mindset that says, "I still matter." So if you've ever stood in front of the mirror and wondered if that spark is gone forever, trust me, it's not. And the good news, you don't need anything complicated to start waking it up again. Because in the next part of our journey, I'll show you the oil that does more than nourish the skin. It reignites a conversation between your body and your sense of self. Stay with me, you're going to want to hear this. 2. The forgotten oil that restores blood flow. Roy's story wasn't unique. I've heard versions of it for decades, different names, different ages, but the same quiet ache. A man who feels like his body still works, but not in the places that matter most. And when I tell them what I'm about to tell you, most of them look at me like I've just recommended witchcraft. Oil doc, you're saying I should rub oil? Down there, yes. And here's why. For centuries, cultures around the world have understood something modern medicine is only just beginning to embrace again. The body responds to natural touch, especially when combined with plant-based healing compounds. One of the most powerful tools I've ever introduced to my patients doesn't come from a pharmacy. It comes from a bottle of rosemary essential oil blended gently with almond coconut or jojoba oil. Rosemary isn't just for cooking. It contains active compounds like rosmarinic acid, which helps dilate blood vessels, carnosol and cineole, which reduce inflammation and promote nerve sensitivity. Together, these unlock blood flow and reawaken nerve response in tissues that haven't felt much in years. But the real magic isn't just in the biology, it's in the ritual. Let me paint the picture for you. Warm hands, warm oil, a quiet evening, no distractions, no performance expectations. Just 5 minutes of slow circular massage starting from the base of the abdomen, down into the groin, and around the base of the penis. This isn't sexual, it's foundational. It tells your body, "I'm here, I'm listening, you still matter." And something begins to shift. Circulation increases, tissue softens, nerves light up like forgotten wires regaining current. One of my patients, Martin 70, described it like this. It wasn't heat, it was electricity. Not a shock, but a hum, like my body was finally getting the memo. That first week, he did nothing else. No supplements, no medications, not even changes to his routine. Just that ritual, evening oil, gentle breath, quiet presence. By day 5, he told me I stood up from my chair and felt fuller, like something in me had weight again. That it might sound small to some people, but if you're a senior man who's quietly grieved the slow erosion of sensation, you know what that moment means. It means the lights aren't out. They were just dimmed. And what rosemary oil does isn't just physical, it's symbolic. You're not handing over your manhood to doctor's pills or prescriptions. You're claiming it back with touch, with presence, with intention. This is what I call the return point, where a man doesn't wait for life to return to him. He returns to himself. And maybe, just maybe, that starts with a drop of oil. But of course, the how matters just as much as the what, because most men don't know how to use this gift the right way. They rush, they press, they treat it like another chore, and the body simply won't respond to that kind of touch. Which brings us to what I want to share next, exactly how to apply this oil, how to slow your breath, and how to turn 5 minutes into something that rewires decades of disconnection. You don't need anything fancy, just a willingness to show up. Let me show you how. 3. How to apply it for maximum effect. Most men don't realize that the way you apply something can matter just as much as what you apply. And that's especially true when it comes to the male body after 60. I've seen so many older gentlemen, good men, thoughtful men, try natural remedies the same way they'd fix a leaky faucet. Fast, functional, checklist style. But your body, especially your sexual health after 60, doesn't respond to force. It responds to care. This is where the shift begins. So here's how I guide my patients. Simple, slow, and deeply intentional. Start by preparing the oil. Use 3 to 5 drops of rosemary essential oil, blended into 1 tablespoon of carrier oil like sweet almond jojoba or coconut. Rub it gently between your palms until it feels warm, not hot. That warmth, it's not just comfort. It's your first signal to the body something good is coming. Then, timing matters. After a warm shower is best. That's when your muscles are relaxed, your pores are open, and your body is ready to receive. Now stand or sit in a quiet space. Breathe slowly. Bring your attention inward. Start at the lower abdomen, right above the pubic bone. Use your fingertips, not your whole hand, and begin gentle circular motions. Not hard, not rushed. Move outward, tracing down to the inner thighs across the groin and around the base of the penis. You don't have to touch the shaft unless you feel drawn to. This isn't about arousal, it's about activation. Stay with your breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Your only goal is presence. For many senior men, this is the first time in years they've touched their body with intention, not frustration. With respect, not resentment. And that's powerful. I remember Don, 71, telling me, "Doc, I thought I was just putting oil on." But halfway through, I realized I was putting dignity back in. That's what this practice does. You don't need candles. You don't need music. You don't need to be in the mood. What you need is to show up for yourself. Start with 5 to 7 minutes once a day. Evenings work beautifully, but some men love starting their mornings this way too. Do what fits your rhythm. And if you're someone who's tried routines like this, or even just thought about it but weren't sure how, why not take a moment and share below? A simple starting tonight, or this speaks to me, might help another man feel less alone on this path. Sometimes knowing someone else is walking beside us makes all the difference. Because when you do this consistently, even just a few minutes each day, your body begins to trust you again. It stops bracing for shame. It starts listening for care. And over time, the effects aren't just physical. They're emotional, spiritual even. But the question I always get next is this: what should I expect, Doc? Will anything really change? And the answer, if you do it right, might surprise you. Because what happens over just 7 days can change the way you feel in your body, maybe for the first time in years. Let me walk you through it step by step. 4. What to expect day by day. The 7-day shift. Most men are surprised when I tell them this. You might feel something shift, not months from now, but in just 7 days. They pause, they raise an eyebrow. Sometimes they laugh, because after years, even decades of feeling numb, distant, or just plain tired, it's hard to imagine that something as small as a drop of oil and a few minutes of care could bring anything back. But it can, and it does. Let me walk you through what so many of my patients have experienced, not as a promise, but as a possibility worth leaning into. Day 1 usually isn't physical, it's emotional. It's the first time in a long time you've shown your body care without shame. No goal, no performance pressure. Just hands, breath, presence. And that alone can stir something. One man told me, "Doc, I didn't even know how disconnected I was until I felt myself coming back." Day 2 or 3, you may feel a soft warmth in the mornings. Not arousal, but awareness. A kind of hum, a tingling in the pelvic floor like the blood is finally flowing again. It's subtle, but it's real. Your body is remembering. Day 4 or 5, sensation starts to shift. Touch feels different. Nerves respond quicker. Some men notice spontaneous erections returning, or for the first time in years, morning wood makes a quiet comeback. And no, it's not magic, it's circulation. It's nerve activation. It's you waking up. Day 6. Something unexpected happens. Not just physically, but emotionally. You walk differently, you speak with more certainty. You look in the mirror and for a moment, you don't just see an elderly man, you see a man in motion again. Rooted, present, alive. And by day 7, there is often a moment I call the mirror moment. You towel off after a shower, catch a glance, and think, I don't know what's different, but I feel more like myself, not younger, not someone else, just you but awake. And if you're still with me right now, maybe you've had your own version of that quiet mirror moment before, a time when you felt your body whisper, I'm still here. If that memory comes to mind, you're welcome to share it in the comments. You never know, your story might mirror someone else's. And that kind of reflection can be deeply healing. Because here's the truth, 7 days isn't the finish line, it's the doorway. And once you step through it, you might start to wonder, if this is just the beginning, how far could I actually go? That's where it gets exciting. Because what I'm about to show you next are 3 natural oils, simple, accessible, that when paired with rosemary, can take everything you've just started and multiply the results. You're ready. Let's explore them. 5. The patient who taught me this is more than physical. Sometimes a single conversation stays with you for years. For me, it was a quiet afternoon in early spring. The clinic was calm. The lights on, and Jerome, age 68, sat across from me with his usual calm logic. He was an engineer by trade, precise, grounded. He didn't come in with complaints. He came in with a question. Doc, he said, do you think I'm still capable of desire? Or am I just chasing a ghost? It was such a simple sentence, but I could hear the ache under the words. We didn't jump into testosterone tests or sexual health medication. We started with breath, with oil, with 5 minutes a day, the same routine I've been sharing with you. No performance pressure, no checklist, just presence. On day 4, Jerome told me something I'll never forget. He said I didn't wake up aroused. I woke up awake. That line gave me chills. Because what men truly crave in this stage of life isn't just performance, it's presence. It's that sense that your body is still a part of you, not something distant, broken, or fading. By week 2, his wife came to his follow-up appointment. She sat beside him, touched his hand, and said with a soft smile, I don't know what he's doing, but he's smiling more, he's softer, and he's finally looking at me again. No blood test could measure that, but it was real. It reminded me of something I say often but never casually. Healing doesn't just happen in the skin or the nerves or the bloodstream. It happens in the space between you and the people you love. It happens in the way you carry yourself when you walk through your own home. And if you've ever felt a shift like that, even something small like the way your partner touches your shoulder differently or the way you look at yourself after shaving, would you share it with us? Not because you owe anyone your story, but because someone out there might need to be reminded that he's not the only one walking this quiet road back home to himself. Jerome's story is one of many. Men who didn't need a miracle, just a map. A reason to believe that sensation, intimacy, and confidence don't belong only to the young. And the truth is, for those who want to deepen this practice, who feel that spark reigniting and wonder how to make it last, there's more nature can offer. Because rosemary oil opens the door, but 3 more oils can walk beside you on the path. Let me introduce them to you. 6. 3 powerful oils to boost your results. Rosemary oil is powerful, but nature, like the male body, doesn't thrive in isolation. It thrives in synergy. Over the years, I've seen something remarkable in my practice. When men combine rosemary oil with just a few other plant-based oils, the results don't just improve, they accelerate. And what I love most, these oils aren't exotic or expensive. They're natural, grounded, and quietly potent, just like the men I serve. Let's begin with ginger oil. You might know ginger as a spice for tea or indigestion, but when applied topically, it has a warming effect that stimulates blood flow. Not a burning heat, but a deep, subtle warmth that wakes up cold tissue, like jumper cables on a sleeping battery. One of my patients, Henry, 73, called it his spark blend. He told me, Doc, I didn't feel aroused. I felt alert, like something down there was listening again. Then there's lavender oil. Now, I know what you're thinking. Lavender, isn't that for stress? Exactly, because one of the most overlooked enemies of sexual health after 60 isn't low testosterone, it's tension. We hold stress in our lower back and the pelvic floor and our hips. That tension blocks blood flow, dulls sensation, and shuts down responsiveness. Lavender calms the nervous system. It tells the body you're safe now. And when the body feels safe, it responds. And finally, my favorite hidden gem, black seed oil. Used for centuries in Middle Eastern medicine, black seed oils is rich in antioxidants, supports hormonal balance, and eases inflammation. It doesn't create fireworks, but it creates foundation, the kind of slow, steady restoration your body recognizes. Together, these oils create what I call the vital blend. 3 drops rosemary, 2 drops ginger, 1 drop lavender or black seed oil, mixed into 1 tablespoon of carrier oil. Rub between your palms, let it warm, and apply the same way we've discussed, slow circular present. Some of my patients use ginger in the morning for activation, lavender at night for calm, and black seed on days when they feel depleted. You don't have to follow a strict rule. Let your body guide you. Some days you'll crave heat, other days grounding. There's no right, only what's honest. And if any of these oils speak to you, if you've used one before and felt even the slightest shift, would you be open to sharing your experience below? Your words might help a man who's been silent for too long. Or give someone the quiet courage to try something gentle for the first time. Because that's what this is in the end, not just oil, not just routine, but a return to something your body's been waiting for. Of course, even the most powerful blend can only do so much if your daily habits are quietly working against you. And that's what we'll talk about next. Not discipline, not diets, but the #1 emotional mistake I see older men make, and how to free yourself from it starting today. Let's keep going. 7. The silent mistake older men keep making. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic moment, no obvious warning sign, just a slow, quiet shift that most men never even talk about. It begins the day you stop expecting change, the day you stop looking in the mirror with curiosity, the day you quietly convince yourself that this is just how life is now. That's the real mistake I see in men over 60. Not a physical failure, but an emotional resignation. It's subtle. You still go about your day, still laugh with friends, still love your partner, but somewhere in your body, you stop reaching for connection. You stop expecting sensation. You stop believing that you still get to feel. And slowly you stop tending to the very part of you that once gave you confidence, pride, identity. Your masculinity doesn't vanish, but it fades into the background. Like a song turned down so low you almost forget it was ever playing. I once had a patient, Arthur, age 74. He was a former high school football coach, strong, respected, sharp-witted. But when he sat across from me, he didn't look strong. He looked tired. "I just don't think I deserve to feel like a man anymore," he whispered. That broke something in me, because I've heard versions of that sentence far too often. From good men, loyal husbands, hardworking fathers, the kind of men who gave everything, except permission for themselves to receive. And so I told Arthur what I'll tell you now: you don't have to earn your aliveness. You only have to return to it. The body doesn't respond to shame, it responds to care. The male body, especially in the senior years, isn't done. It's just waiting. Waiting for breath, waiting for attention, waiting for someone to say you're still worth showing up for. And when it hears it, it begins to respond in quiet, steady, powerful ways. So here's what I want to ask you. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you stopped showing up for yourself? Maybe not all at once, but little by little. And if so, what helped you find your way back? If you feel like sharing, you're welcome to leave a comment. Not for me, but for the man reading silently, wondering if he's the only one. Your story might be the spark he didn't know he needed. Because what I've learned after 3 decades in men's health is this: you can't rush restoration, but you can begin it quietly, intentionally at any moment. And the moment you choose to care again, that's the one your body never forgets. Now that we've uncovered what holds men back, let's talk about what moves them forward. Not just for a week, but for life. Because the next step isn't just about improvement, it's about integration. Let me show you how to make this simple ritual part of your rhythm, something that stays with you year after year. How to make this a daily ritual that lasts. At first, most men treat the oil routine like an experiment, a temporary solution, something to try for a few days and then move on. And that's okay. We all need a place to begin. But what I didn't expect, what continues to surprise and move me, is how many men come back weeks later. Not just with results, but with a new kind of energy in their voice. They don't ask, "Doc, does it work?" They say, "Doc, I think this belongs in my life now." Because what starts as a simple habit can become something sacred. You see, healing doesn't come from what we do once. It comes from what we repeat. The male body, especially in the senior years, thrives on rhythm. And when you send it the same message every day, you matter. You're still worth tending to. It starts to believe it. So how do you make this last start simple? Pair your oil ritual with something you already do. Maybe it's after your evening shower, or right before you brush your teeth at night, or even first thing in the morning while the house is still quiet. Keep your oil visible, not hidden in a drawer. Make it part of your space. Give yourself 5–10 minutes. You don't need music, candles, or anything fancy. Just your hands, your breath, and a willingness to show up. Some men like to begin with a short walk, 5–10 minutes outside, feeling their feet on the earth. Others add in gentle movement, light hip circles, pelvic tilts, stretches. Nothing intense, just a way of saying I'm alive. I'm listening. Then warm the oil. Breathe it in. Let your touch be slow, kind, patient. No rushing, no fixing, just returning. One of my patients, James, a retired truck driver, 6 years old, told me, "This doc, I started doing this every night before bed. Not for performance, not even for results. It just felt like a way to end the day, with a bit of dignity." And honestly, that might be the most powerful outcome of all, because this isn't just a health tip. It's not even just about erectile dysfunction or senior wisdom or testosterone support. It's about being in relationship with your own body again. So if you've already started this journey, or you're thinking about making it part of your life, I'd love to hear what part of your day feels best for it. Morning, evening. After a walk before sleep, feel free to leave a quiet note below. Even just a sentence like, "Evenings work best for me," can help normalize something beautiful for another man reading silently. Because the more we make care feel normal, the more likely it is to last. And once it lasts, it transforms. But before we close, there's one more truth I want to offer you. Something I've come to believe deeply after walking beside so many men on this road back to themselves. It's the quiet message that could shift the way you see not just your body, but your worth. Let me share it with you, heart to heart. 9. A word to every man who thinks it's too late. There's something I want to say just between us. Something I wish every man over 60 could hear, especially in those quiet late-night moments. When the house is still and the doubts feel loud. You are not broken, you are not behind, and it's not too late, not even close. I say this not as a doctor, but as a man who's listened to thousands of men tell me, in whispers and in tears, that they thought their time had passed. They thought pleasure was gone, connection was gone. That warm sense of being alive in their skin, gone. But I've watched those same men come back to life, not because of magic, not because of medication, but because of attention. Because the moment you start to care for yourself again, really care, your body listens. And not just your body, but your nervous system wakes up, your eyes soften, your heart stretches, and somehow life feels possible again. I once had a man, George, age 81, tell me something I'll never forget. He said, "Doc, I spent years avoiding the mirror. Now I look at myself in the morning and I nod. Not because I'm perfect, but because I'm present." That's what this is about. Not youth, not performance, not proving anything to anyone. It's about returning to your breath, to your touch, to the truth that you are still here. You are still worthy of tenderness, still capable of pleasure, still a man in every way that matters. And if no one has said it to you in a long time, let me say it clearly. You are allowed to feel good. You are allowed to reconnect. You are allowed to begin again. So tonight, before you close your eyes, before you drift into sleep, I invite you to do something simple. Place one hand over your lower abdomen. Close your eyes and whisper to yourself, "I still belong here," because you do. And if these words stirred something in you, even just a quiet hum inside, I'd be honored to hear what it was. You don't need to write a speech, just a few honest words in the comments. Maybe this gave me hope, or I needed this tonight. Whatever feels true, because the more we name our quiet moments, the less alone we feel in them. And sometimes your words become the lifeline for someone else. Now, as we begin to close this chapter together, I want to gather everything we've shared, the ritual, the rhythm, the wisdom, into one final message. Not a conclusion, but a reminder you can carry with you. Let's bring it all home. Closing message. This is just the beginning. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to say something simple but powerful. Thank you, not just for watching, not just for listening, but for showing up for yourself. That matters more than you may realize. Because somewhere along the road, most men are told quietly, subtly, even cruelly, that they should expect less after a certain age. Less energy, less passion, less joy, less of themselves. And I'm here to tell you that is a lie. You are still here. Your body is still listening. And this journey, this return to sensation, to strength, to presence, is living proof of that. You now understand what most men never hear, that what feels numb or disconnected is not lost. It's just waiting for circulation, waiting for presence, waiting for you. We've talked about why many senior men begin to feel less like themselves and how this has nothing to do with failure and everything to do with neglected care. You've learned how something as simple and natural as rosemary oil combined with intentional touch can gently restore what time has dulled. You've seen how pairing that with ginger lavender or black seed oil can deepen the effect. How small daily rituals rooted in attention can unlock not just erections, but confidence, identity, joy. You've heard real stories from men like James, like George, and maybe you saw yourself in them. But more than any of that, I hope you walk away with this: you matter. Your health, your pleasure, your presence, it still belongs to you. And every small act of care you give to yourself, especially now, an act of quiet power. So if this message resonated with you, if you felt even a flicker of something stirring out inside, please don't keep it to yourself. Click the like button. Not for me, but to help this video reach another man who might be quietly suffering in silence tonight. And if you're open to it, drop a comment below. Even just a word like grateful, hopeful, or starting tonight. You never know who needs to read that exact word at the right moment. And finally, if this kind of honest, heartfelt, practical conversation about men's health speaks to you, subscribe to Life Over 50 Plus. This is just one chapter. There's so much more we'll explore together. Because aging isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning of a new, deeper, wiser one. And I can't wait to walk it with you.